How would you describe his leadership style?
Confident.
The Toronto Star put out that story about all of these MPs that were really unhappy with Mark Carney.
They sure did, which is shocking for the Toronto Star.
Right. The Toronto Star is
very liberal.
They're more liberal than CBC, if you can believe it. So I thought it was fascinating that another publication saw that and said, no way, no way. We're gonna make our own contacts. And this is what they found. As Carney faces pressure to deliver, some Liberal MPs question his leadership style. This is from the Globe and Mail, folks. Behind the closed doors of a Liberal caucus meeting this spring, things grew heated between Prime Minister Mark Carney and Nova Scotia MP Jamie Battiste. The same thing that the Toronto Star reported. The two traded responsibility for the government's shaky relationship with Indigenous groups in an intense exchange that played out in front of all the other Liberal MPs gathered on the second floor of West Block for the party's weekly get-together. The friction was ultimately resolved in a private phone call later. The interaction was an example of the tension that's been playing out between Mr. Carney and his MPs away from the spotlight. And it's one that has some MPs questioning whether the internal political capital amassed by the Prime Minister for bringing the Liberals back from certain annihilation is at risk of being squandered by his leadership style. With Mr. Carney heading into his second year as Liberal leader and Prime Minister, the Globe and Mail spoke with 12 MPs about what their relationship is like with him as both sides adjust to a new political reality. Two MPs disclosed to the Globe that the Prime Minister told Caucus last week that he's not interested in complaints, a message essentially the same as one recently delivered to a business crowd. This is also the same that was reported in the Toronto Star. Quote, "We don't want to hear what people are against. We want to hear what they're for," end quote, Mr. Carney told the Vancouver Board of Trade on May 20th. Quote, and if you're for something, we will get behind it," end quote. There are 174 MPs in Mr. Carney's caucus, and there is broad support for the direction he has set. But the MPs who spoke with the Globe said it comes with a caveat. Running a caucus is not the same as leading a company. That's why the exchange with Mr. Battiste generated a lot of raised eyebrows. 5 MPs said that on that day, the Nova Scotia MP was highlighting concerns about Bill S2, which amends the Indian Act, and more broadly about how the Liberal government is perceived among Indigenous groups. The MPs said Mr. Carney told him that the government's position on the bill had been decided with Mr. Battiste's input, and that if there was a negative perception among Indigenous groups, it was Mr. Battiste's issue to manage. 3 MPs described the exchange as the Prime Minister losing it on Mr. Battiste, ripping a strip off him or dressing him down. However, that last description was delivered with an asterisk. Other Liberals in the room, they said, sided with the Prime Minister in substance, if not his tone. This is significant, folks, and it's significant for a couple of reasons. Number one, you have the same account being validated almost point for point on 2 separate occasions by 2 separate reporting entities and 2 separate reporters. And the second point is that you have additional details that have come out of this that validate every single thing that was said in the Toronto Star report is now being reflected in this report by seemingly separate MPs. And it was very interesting in that last part that the MPs that spoke to the Globe and Mail said other Liberals in the room, not me, other Liberals in the room sided with Carney. Not necessarily how he said it, but what he was saying. And I think it's fascinating that Mr. Carney says, it's not my job to get the Indigenous folks on our side. My job is to make decisions. It's your job to make sure that these people toe the line.
As in speaking about the MPs, the Indigenous MPs.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's their job to get these special interest groups to actually come in line with the Liberals. So I think that's fascinating. Whereas this is supposed to be the Prime Minister that brings everyone together. Well, apparently this is the Prime Minister that brings everyone together by doing nothing to bring everyone together and delegates that down to MPs. So basically they have to clean up his political messes for him. And this is the way a CEO will operate. Not a good CEO, but a CEO nonetheless.
It goes and it makes a mess and makes his underlings take care of it. Yeah.
And this is also where this friction is coming and bubbling up when they're saying, this isn't a company, this is a political party. Who could have foreseen this?
But, you know, this was my whole point back in, I don't know, February maybe, where, not this past February, the one before that, where I had said, you know, why would they choose Carney as a leader to be the Prime Minister? Because you want somebody who's moved up through the ranks. You want somebody who's started as a backbencher, who understands what it is to work for your constituents and how to make legislation, and then be on a committee, and then maybe they're promoted to minister at some point, and then they become the leader of the party and therefore the Prime Minister. You don't want somebody just like off the street and then is thrown into Parliament and they have no idea how decorum works. They have no idea how to manage a caucus. They have no idea about anything.
I imagine the only door knocking Carney has done is for a handful of photo ops, and that's it. He'll delegate that task to other people. So
I bet they don't even go door knocking that right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
like. Yeah.
So anyway, folks, so because this is all bubbling up, and you have these leaks coming out of the Liberal caucus, and they're actively going to different publications, Mr. Carney designated someone to be Mr. Damage Control, who is the chair of the Liberal caucus, James Maloney.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Several MPs told the Toronto Star this week that Mark Carney has a penchant for lashing out at caucus members, centralizing power and ignoring their concerns. CTV News' Rachel Aiello asked Liberal MPs what they thought on their way into question period this week.
Well, I've certainly, like I say, it was basically what we had was a disagreement.
You've never seen the Prime Minister yell in a meeting? No, never.
I have never seen the Prime Minister act other than respectfully, and he is someone who is used to being in a boardroom, and I appreciate the back and forth with him. He's an incredibly smart guy.
How would you describe his leadership style?
Confident. He has a good way with people. I would absolutely say that, and it's genuine. Like, he's a no kind of person. If he says it, he means it.
I totally believe that last interview.
I'll take things that never happened for $500, Alex. He's confident. What did they write down for me to say?
What are other good qualities? Let's just name some. Smart.
She's smart. He's smart. SMRT. All right, let's get to this.
Does the Prime Minister have a caucus management problem? James Maloney is the Liberals caucus chair. He's with me here in studio. Hi, Mr. Maloney. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Always happy to be here.
And thanks for taking questions on this. I'm going to put a quote from the piece directly to you to get your response to begin. He yells, said one MP, who, like others, spoke on condition of anonymity to avoid retribution from the Prime Minister's office. He punches down at caucus all the time. Is that true?
Absolutely false. I sit closer to him in caucus than I'm sitting to you right now. When I read that 2 nights ago, I had a variety of emotional reactions. One of them was, concern. One of them was anger. One was great disappointment, because it's not true. It's absolutely not true.
Then why are people telling, a media outlet that?
Well, here, let me give you some context to start with, or your viewers' context, because you know this already. But I'm sitting here defending the Prime Minister, but I serve at the pleasure of the caucus. I was elected as caucus chair by the MPs in that room. So my job and my responsibility is to them and to him, because he's a member of caucus. So I'm not being sent out here to defend. I'm here to, look, the story's wrong. I'm sorry.
I'm not being sent out here to defend. Oh, crap. I shouldn't have said that because now I have to say what I was sent out here to do. The story's wrong. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, you have just failed, Mr. Maloney. I think he thought that this sounded good in his head, but when it came out, it really, really didn't come out that well. So congratulations, Mr. Maloney. Yeah.
The story is wrong. I read that, and I sit right beside him. I've never heard the man yell. It's just, I don't know where that came from.
So what about the part around, like, the idea of raising concerns versus coming to the table with solutions? And in this case, there were specific examples provided. For example, a Nova Scotia MP raising concerns over perceptions of the government's changes to the Indian Act. Another MP, a doctor, raising concerns about the federal government's lack of response to sort of a piece of legislation in Alberta about two-tier healthcare. Like, is the idea, can you bring forward concerns and concerns alone? And isn't that the job of MPs, to kind of represent the concerns of their constituents and relay it to the people who make decisions about it?
The latter part of your statement's 100%. My job as caucus chair is to make sure we have a safe environment where people, MPs and the Prime Minister and cabinet ministers can voice their opinions. That's the whole purpose of the meeting. We're there for 2 hours every week. No phones, no media, no staff, and we have open and frank discussions. I'm never going to tell anybody ever what happens in that room, because what happens in that room is sacred.
Wait a minute. I'm never going to tell anyone what goes in that room because what happens in that room is sacred. Did this happen? This is absolutely false. That didn't happen in that room. Like, Mr. Maloney.
I think your credibility is showing there.
How sacred is this? How sacred is this? Because if you're saying this didn't happen in this room and he never yelled, aren't you telling us what happens in that room?
No, he's telling us what didn't happen.
Oh. Oh. So you're allowed to tell us what didn't happen in that room. You're just not allowed to say what did happen in that room? Oh. Okay. Wow, you're as great a caucus chair as you are a chair of the Justice Committee.
That's to say not at all.
Not a compliment.
Yeah.
The other reasons I was so upset the other night when I saw that, because people speaking, and I know the article said don't talk to the media. Look, I've spoken with you, I've spoken with other media. I'm happy to talk to media all the time, but I will never share a word of what happens inside that room, and everybody who's in that room should abide by the same principle, because it's a safe place. And it's a safe place because, as you pointed out, that's where we have these discussions. A lot of government policies have come out of that room because caucus members have an opportunity to voice their concerns, to raise issues that they hear from their constituents, whether it's in BC or Atlantic Canada or Quebec or Ontario. And that's what it's for. So we have wide-ranging discussions on a wide-ranging number of topics. So it's a big country, and there's a lot going on right now, but it's a safe space. So there's dialogue. And my job is to make sure that people have that opportunity. We have a structure to the meeting. I set the agenda every week. And my #1 goal is to make sure that people are able to go in there, and if they have an issue, to voice that issue and to try to find a solution.
Has anyone approached you from caucus with the kinds of concerns that are being reported in this piece? Because obviously people approach the author, approach the reporter, right? And she's relaying what people have told her. Has any of that ever? And I understand you have a perception of how things are going, but
No,
maybe
not,
others,
it's
maybe
not a
others do
perception.
too.
I'm there. It's not a perception.
Yeah, but you experience things one way and others may another way.
Okay, but I'm telling you, it's what was reported in that article, I don't even know how you could perceive it that way, because it's factually incorrect.
And can you be more specific? Like, are you saying it's impossible that some MPs would not feel as though the Prime Minister does not want to hear the concerns that they're reflecting from their constituents?
I can't speak to the minds of every member of caucus. Look, I've been in caucus for 10 years. This is a new government. When you're an MP getting up to speak, I mean, whether you're speaking to a minister or the Prime Minister or anybody else, it's a process. Sometimes people react to it differently. Some people are more comfortable doing it than others. But I'll say this over and over again, it is a safe space. So if people are uncomfortable speaking for some reason, that falls on me. That falls on me as the caucus chair. That's my responsibility to make sure that that environment is a place where we can have those discussions.
But you're telling me today, and if they're listening, that that's not happening, that it is a safe place, that there is no consequence if they feel differently. Like, if they're listening to this right now, are you really saying to them it's a safe space?
Great job, Vash. So, if they're feeling this way, and you're saying, well, this isn't happening, but this is a safe space, how could it be a safe space if you're telling them they're imagining this and this isn't happening?
It's a safe space for Mark Carney.
Right.
That's what he means.
Right. And this is where this liberal logic trips over itself, right?
Yeah.
Because what happened to lived experience? What happened to my truth? What about the truth of these liberal MPs that are in there that are getting blasted, yelled at, having Mark Carney lose it on them? Not my words, their words. Aren't you supposed to respect their truth, their reality of what happened in that room, Mr. Maloney? This is what the liberals have been telling us for the last 10 years and ramming it down our throats. So shouldn't you be practicing it in your own room? And Bashi's like, aren't you denying all of these people their lived experience here? Like, that's basically what she's asking. Brilliant.
If they're listening, and I hope they're listening, and I will say to them today, which I've said to them outside of caucus, if there's something you want to change, if there's something you want done differently, come to me. I'm more than happy to hear it. And I've had those discussions because, we change the flow of meetings on a fairly regular basis. We have to adapt to times and circumstances and issues. And if that involves finding a way to make people from one region or another more comfortable or giving them more time, that's what I do. But that's my responsibility. So sure, I have discussions all the time about how we can make it better.
So a few weeks ago when we talked just the night before Mr. Guilbeault quit, you were insistent that there was not any dissent within caucus. When he left, he did so in a respectful way, but he certainly made it clear in his departing interview with me that it was the government's record on climate, its actions on the issue, that prompted him to leave. Does that not show you, and I would also point out there's 2 different polls this week that I know your party's riding very high in the polls, but that show the NDP is actually, for the first time since the last election, gaining traction. Is there not some dissent? Mr. Guilbeault was unequivocal. There are others who feel as uncomfortable as him.
I think what I said to you 2 weeks ago is that disagreement doesn't mean dissent. There was lots of times over the last 10 years when the government was doing something that wasn't the way I would do it or wasn't something that I agreed with completely. But as I also said to you 2 weeks ago, we go into that room, we exchange views, and we come out on the same team. So there's disagreement, but people have to stop confusing that with dissent, because there's always going to be circumstances where people disagree. It's a big caucus. It's a big country. We have 173 people in that room. So the word dissent does not factor into my psyche at all when it comes to caucus.
So when it's conservatives, it's dissent, and it's Pierre doesn't have control of his caucus, and they're revolting and blah, blah, blah. But when it's the liberals, it's just disagreement.
Well, and maybe that just shows how crappy of a chair you are, Mr. Maloney, because
you can't tell the difference.
If you don't even know that there's dissent going on and people are literally leaving your party, leaving politics, and you're of the opinion, oh no, it's just disagreement, it's fine. Then you have one guy leave, and then you have a bunch of other ones running to the reporter saying Mr. Carney is acting like a CEO egomaniac in there and yelling at people and saying, I don't want to hear your concerns. I only want to hear yes men and yes women coming to me. Maybe that shows that you actually don't have a good handle on your caucus.
Well, I think to some degree, you could say that, if as an MP you're going to come to me, the Prime Minister, with a problem, I want some ideas for solutions. Maybe you don't know what the right solution is, but this is going on in your riding. Maybe it needs more money, maybe it needs more attention, whatever it needs, I want you to tell me. So don't just come to me with problems. I think to a degree that is fair.
That's fine.
But this sounds a little bit more than that.
Well, and here's the other thing. And this is where Mr. Carney is obviously not a people manager. I'm not even going to say rule number 1 about people managing, because there are many rules that are just important as the other. But one really important rule in people managing is when you're going to dress down an employee, you never, ever, ever do it in front of other employees. Now, these people aren't employees. It's probably even more of a reason not to do this, because what that does is it shows everybody else that you are prepared to disrespect and completely humiliate this person in front of all of their peers.
Well, and it, to me anyways, it shows that you don't respect this person,
Right.
that you think they're subhuman, that you think you are better than them.
Well, and it also demonstrates to everybody that your intent is to make sure that everybody knows that you are dominating that person and that you're the top dog in that room.
Right.
Versus, okay, Mr. Batiste, clearly we have a disagreement. Let's talk about this after caucus is done. And that way, A, it keeps it respectful. B, it shows everybody that you're actually proceeding with this disagreement in a respectful fashion. And C, it's allowing you to get through to the next topic of the meeting and not waste everybody's time.
And also, isn't it typically the whip and the house leader who do the, I don't want to call it disciplining, but they have to kind of work to keep everybody in line, make sure everybody's going to vote the same way.
It is, but in this case, I think it's a little bit of a different scenario. So
No, but I'm saying, like, it should be James Maloney's job. It should be, I don't even know who the government whip is right now.
Mark Gerritsen.
Oh, yuck. It should be their job to do that sort of thing, not Carney. So why is he dressing down people in front of the entire caucus?
Well, that's the question.
Not a little bit though, like saying, "Oh, it's no big deal. Stephen Guilbeault left over
No,
this."
no, no,
Like, because
no,
I mean, there is. I understand you're trying to distinguish between disagreement and dissent. Fine, he disagrees with the direction of the government on a very key issue for him and a number of his constituents. But that is so much disagreement that he left. He left federal politics. Like, is it really a time to downplay that?
Look, I'm not downplaying it. Nobody's downplaying it. He left for his own personal reasons. I've spoken with Stephen. I spoke to him before we made the announcement, which was the day after I was on your show last time. I've had a number of discussions, and he was, and will continue to be a supporter of this federal Liberal government. He's chosen to leave politics at this time. Yes, he's voiced some concerns of some issues that he feels strongly about, and he's an important voice. But we have other voices in caucus on that and other issues as well. So I don't think we should be reading anything into that other than Stephen Guilbeault decided to leave politics at this time.
That's a super interesting take because, you know, it sounds exactly like how Pierre Poilievre characterized people leaving the Conservative Party to move over to the Liberals, like downplaying the significance. And I understand why you would want to from a political perspective, but Stephen Guilbeault isn't just anybody. And he wasn't just saying, you know what, I think it's time to spend more time with my family. He was very specifically saying he can no longer support the growth agenda of your government because it has come at the cost of climate.
I don't think I sounded anything like Pierre Poilievre, just to be clear
in
about
that
it.
vein,
Yeah,
in that
no.
vein
And
where you're trying to say this isn't a big deal.
And I'm happy to pull out quotes when those members decided to cross the floor and join our caucus, I might add. Some of whom share the same views as, all of them share the same views as Stephen Guilbeault. So that's a false narrative. But look, Stephen, I will say it again, was a valuable member of our caucus. He's decided to move on. I've had these conversations with him. My colleagues have had these conversations with him. You probably saw his statement or his speech in the House of Commons when he was leaving. He's spoken to the media since. He feels strongly on some issues, but it doesn't mean he doesn't support this government.
But he's not willing to be a part of it anymore.
Well,
that's not nothing.
Okay, but I don't think there's people leave politics for a whole variety of reasons.
2 minutes ago, he said, nobody's downplaying it. Just wait 2 minutes more, and then I'll start downplaying it.
People leave politics for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, and one of those reasons is literally going on TV and telling everybody, I completely disagree with where this government is going. And this is the same gentleman who came out on TV a year ago and said, I completely agree with Mr. Carney. We're aligned in views and we're aligned in the direction, and I'm willing to put all of my support behind him. This is the same guy that a year later is now saying, I completely disagree with this government and the direction we're going, and I can't continue as a member of parliament. Yes, that is one of the reasons, Mr. Maloney, and that would be classified as dissent. And Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what is going on in Mark Carney's caucus. And it is fascinating to see play out in real time. And what we were hoping and what we were predicting seems to finally be starting to happen, which is as the Liberal government gives this perception, although we all know better, but this perception that they're moving away from this whole climate business, that perception is coming at the cost of the progressive vote saying, okay, if the Liberals aren't going to do this, the NDP seems to be the only ones that are doing it, I'm going to start to support them.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to happen.
Yeah,
this is where we need
good
that.
for conservatives.
This is what we need, that split to happen and that progressive vote to start eroding away from the Liberals. And it's not going to happen overnight, folks. It's going to slowly chip and chip and chip and chip away. And hopefully, sooner or later, you're going to see that progressive chip off of the Liberals, and then the actual conservative side of this and the centrists are going to see that the Liberals are not actually doing that and not delivering on their climate promises, and that maybe the only option is to actually realize that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives have been right this whole time.
Imagine that.
And maybe it's finally to give them that shot after 10 years of Liberal government and get this Conservative into a majority position so they can finally fix this country and get us back to having the most affluent middle class on the planet.